Next question is going to come from Joanne Fleming here. This is for Mr. Cruz eventually, but in this case for Mr. Senatorial.
Good evening, sir. Do you support Governor Perry's in-state tuition breaks and taxpayer-supported tuition grants for children of illegal aliens? Why or why not?
Pardon me, but hell no. Let me explain how come. Now, I have 6 kids, 5 girls and a boy. They range from 24 years down to 7 years old. I have 2 that are going to college. And I have a problem when my daughter, who's going to Arkansas, has to pay out-of-state tuition, while somebody who is in the state of Arkansas, who is not here, an illegal citizen, is paying in-state tuition. The Constitution of the United States governs American citizens. Okay? That's it. Now, in reference to specifically Governor Perry's position on that, I totally disagree with his position on that because, you know, and I'm going to tag on to the DREAM Act, so to speak, as well, because that ended up becoming part of the issue, is that there are good things about the DREAM Act and there's bad things about the DREAM Act. And that specifically is the bad thing about the DREAM Act. If people want to serve in the military and they become citizens, I'm fully supportive of that. But no, I disagree with that position.
Our next question will come from Ken Emanuelson and is for Mr. Addison and Ms. Pittenger. Ken?
Yes. Please explain your understanding of the source and purpose of the term sustainable development and explain whether or not you agree with it.
It's a shame that those 2 words have been tarnished by the United Nations. As you heard from my opening statement, I am not a fan of anything coming out of the United Nations. One of the reasons I want to move them out of this country is because that building is filled with American-hating people, spies, people that have celebrations when our citizens are murdered by terrorists. So anything coming out of the United Nations, Agenda 21, Sustainable Development, and anything else that sounds even Americanish, I plan, as your senator, to have my own separate kitchen cabinet of Texans that are conservative that will watch my back and have my back for those kind of fancy words that come along that may not initially sound dangerous, because what will happen is, since the radar is up at the UN about how we're catching on to that phrase, they're going to call it something else real soon. I can guarantee you. And I need Texans that are concerned like I am to make me aware of it so that from day one I can attack like a duck on a June bug.
What is my understanding of sustainable development? Is that the question? I agree with Glenn. It came out of the United Nations, and through programs like ICLEI, they're doing everything they can to restrict our movement to less than 15% of this nation, of its landmass. I do not agree with that. I do not believe that that is in alignment with our values when it comes to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Quite frankly, I think many of them would like to limit the life part as well. If we're not sustainable enough for them, they'd like us to move on. I think the United Nations agrees and is united truly on really 2 things: how much they hate us and how much they hate Israel. So I personally do not agree with them. I am not united with them on either of those issues. So I agree we need to withdraw. They need to move out. And for the party up there that believes rent is too darn high, I think we should just open up that building to people who need a place to live. I think it has a few hundred, maybe a few thousand rooms that could become living space, but I strongly disagree with sustainable development, and I agree they're going to turn it into something else to evade us. We must be highly aware.
Our next question will come from Ricky McNeil for all of the candidates. By the way, for those of you, and I understand that it happens to me all the time at work, if you don't know this, sustainable development in Swahili is experiments with American taxpayer money. Just so you know. That's the translation. That's what the term is. Some of it is just downright silly. This question, Ricky, please, for all the candidates, we'll start with Kurt first.
Okay. Good evening. If elected, would you vote for or against legislation being proposed by Representative Mike Kaufman, a Republican from Colorado, to end the defined benefits portion of the retirement package currently available to members of Congress?
That's a good question. I definitely am in agreement with that. I think that as we go into the times that our nation are going into, I believe that we need to cut back as government officials. I believe that we need to take a stance on benefits if we're elected. Absolutely. I think that that would only be fair. And I do agree with his role in that.
Okay, Kurt, thank you. Andrew? Yes.
Okay, great. I propose that they get the same retirement that George Washington got. And if they can't deal with that, they can deal with the same retirement I got after 20 years of military service, and that's 50%. To be honest with you, along with the same health care that I got that I paid premiums for, and co-pays and everything else from caps and so forth. We have really changed the way in the United States that we represent ourselves and represent the people. We become addicted to power. We become addicted to money. And it's these things that our politicians, what I like to call, at least within this party, the DC Republicans, that have just gotten away from the concept that you go to serve, not to be served. That is a problem. Do your term. When you get out, you don't get nothing. I mean, you're already being paid $167,000 a year to be a senator. If you don't know what to do with $167,000 a year, then you need to use some other party.
Glenn?
You heard in my opening statement that I will reject the lavish pension as well as the health care. I personally am appalled at the trough that they have before them that they feed at our expense. I want to go ahead and briefly mention my proposal for term limits, which is taken right out of Article 5. In that day and age, in 1787, the controversy of the day was slavery, how to count the slaves, what states would have them. And so they said, you can't touch this for 21 years until 1808 because they thought we'll be dead and gone by then. They didn't want to have to rehash it again. So my proposal for term limits is that, and when I'm sworn in January 2013, I would propose that 8 years in the future, in 2021, a 12-year clock begin. And that way I think I can get that to pass if these guys know that they've got 8 extra years, because we didn't get into this problem overnight. We won't get out of it overnight. But after 2021, the 12-year clock will begin, and that's just the first of many things I would propose. But ending some of these gravy train benefits is going to be difficult because there's probably a bigger chance that a certain eternal destination will freeze over before we can get it done. And I'm determined to try my best to get it done.
I would agree with ending it, and I would also say that in no way should their pay contribute to Social Security, because it's your taxpayer dollars that would be paying for their Social Security, and since they're borrowing 40 cents of every dollar, what it really means is your children will be paying the interest on the loan we took to pay their Social Security benefits from your taxpayer dollars. I strongly disagree. So I do believe in ending those benefits. Personally, I don't think they should have a retirement plan in Congress except for going back to their day job. So right now, you only have to serve 6 years before you're eligible for the retirement for the rest of your life. I strongly disagree with that. It's gone from a role of public service to being publicly served, and I think it's about time we flip that upside down on its head.
Thank you, Leila. Actually, we were doing this on the air the other day. That number, believe it or not, is 5 years. They're vested in Congress after only 5 years now. And I don't know about many of you, but to be vested as a politician, does something like that just make you want to go throw up in the grass? I mean, really, think about that. You go to serve, and you get that kind of retirement. Get this. In 2006, which is the last time anybody would admit to the numbers, the average pension for your average bare congressperson was $36,000 a year. That was 5 years ago dollars. $36,000 a year. Average pension for Congress,